Have you ever ignored the text, not because you didn't care, but because even replying felt exhausting? Or maybe someone asked you for something simple, and your first thought was, I genuinely cannot handle one more thing right now. If that's where you are mentally or emotionally, this video is for you. Hello and welcome back to the universe, friends. Today we're talking about what to say when you don't have the energy for people anymore. Because sometimes even simple conversations start feeling heavy. And if you stay with me, I'm going to give you 5 simple scripts for those moments when you need space but don't know how to explain it. So let's walk through this together because there's a reason you feel this way. Let's talk about why people start feeling exhausting to you. Sometimes when life feels overwhelming, even simple interactions with people can start feeling heavy. And that can feel confusing, especially if you care deeply about people, because you might look at your unread texts, your missed calls, invitations sitting unanswered, and think, what's wrong with me? But emotional exhaustion changes the way your brain experiences demand. When you're already mentally overloaded, even small interactions with others can start feeling like one more thing your nervous system has to manage. Sometimes even people you love can feel emotionally overwhelming when your mind already feels too full. Because conversations require energy, responding requires energy, being emotionally present requires energy, explaining yourself requires energy. And when life already feels like too much, your brain starts trying to protect whatever emotional energy it has left. So instead of reaching out, you pull away. Instead of responding, you stare at the message and tell yourself, I'll answer later, and later keeps becoming later. Not because you're rude, not because you don't care, but because emotionally you feel overloaded. You don't hate people. Your nervous system just doesn't feel like it has anything left to give. And honestly, a lot of overwhelmed people become exhausted from constantly being emotionally available. You see, being the reliable one, being the listener, being the strong one, being the person everyone depends on. After a while, your mind and body can start craving quiet, space, and relief from emotional input. And one of the hardest parts is the guilt you feel. Because many overwhelmed people still care deeply about others. They just don't have the same emotional capacity they used to have, and those are not the same thing. Caring about people and having the energy for people are two very different things. So if people have been feeling heavier lately, if conversations feel draining, if you've been withdrawing more than usual, it doesn't automatically mean you're selfish, cold, or becoming a bad person. It may mean that you have been carrying too much for too long. Now let's talk about why so many people withdraw instead of communicating. One of the hardest parts about emotional exhaustion is that a lot of people don't know how to communicate it while it's happening, especially if they're used to being dependable or emotionally available or the strong one. Because many overwhelmed people don't struggle with caring, they struggle with capacity. But instead of saying, I don't have the emotional energy right now, a lot of people just disappear quietly. They stop responding. They isolate. They cancel plans. They avoid calls. Not necessarily because they want to disconnect from people, but because explaining their exhaustion feels exhausting too. Sometimes even sending a simple text can feel mentally heavy when your brain already feels overloaded. And a lot of emotionally exhausted people think they need a good enough reason before they're allowed to need space. So they keep pushing themselves to respond normally, even when internally they feel completely drained. And eventually, Even pretending to be okay starts wearing you down. Sometimes a person goes quiet, not because they don't care, but because they've reached a point where even basic interactions feels like emotional labor. And unfortunately, a lot of overwhelmed people wait until they completely shut down before they communicate their limits. They wait until they're irritated, burned out, emotionally numb, or mentally checked out because they were trying so hard not to disappoint anyone. But protecting your emotional capacity earlier is healthier than disappearing after total exhaustion. And this is important. Needing space is not the same thing as rejecting people. Wanting quiet does not make you cold, and having less social energy during overwhelming seasons of life does not make you a bad friend or a bad person. Sometimes silence isn't rejection. Sometimes it's emotional survival. And honestly, learning how to communicate your limits before you completely shut down is a form of self respect because people cannot support needs they never hear expressed. And you deserve relationships where you don't have to emotionally collapse before you're allowed to rest. And if you've been feeling this way lately, first of all, I want you to know you're not alone in it. A lot of emotionally overwhelmed people struggle to explain what's happening internally because sometimes the hardest thing isn't needing space, it's figuring out how to say it without guilt. So if you've been sitting there thinking, okay, but what do I actually say to people? Let's talk about that now because sometimes having a few simple words ready can make it easier to communicate your needs before you completely shut down. And the goal here isn't to create perfect responses. It's to help you communicate honestly without feeling like you have to over explain your exhaustion to everyone around you. So, script number one, let's talk about general exhaustion. Sometimes the simplest response is also the most effective. You can say, I care about you. I just don't have a lot of emotional energy right now. And what I like about this script is that it communicates two things at the same time: care and limitation. Because emotionally exhausted people often think they need to choose between being honest or being kind. But healthy communication can be both. Script number two, here's what you say when you need space. I'm overwhelmed and trying to recharge mentally this week. Notice how this communicates your internal state without attacking anyone. You're not blaming people for your exhaustion, you're simply being honest about your capacity. And honestly, a lot of people wait until they're completely emotionally depleted before they give themselves permission to step back. But needing space earlier is healthier than disappearing after burnout. Okay, now script number three. When you're saying you can't help right now, I want to support you, but I honestly don't have the capacity right now. And this one can be especially difficult for people who are used to being dependable all the time because many overwhelmed people feel guilty the moment they can't emotionally show up the way they normally do. But your worth is not measured by how emotionally available you are 24 hours a day. Now let's look at script number four for slow replies and going quiet. And sometimes emotional exhaustion just looks like becoming quieter than usual. So taking longer to respond, pulling back socially. And if that's been happening lately, one simple thing you can say is, if I've been quieter than usual, it's not personal. I'm just mentally tired right now. Because emotional exhaustion can change your social capacity, and communicating that honestly is healthier than pretending everything feels normal when it doesn't. You don't need a perfect explanation to let people know you're struggling emotionally right now. And script number five, when you decline invitations and you just need some quiet time. Sometimes the hardest thing is admitting that you genuinely need rest more than social interaction. And maybe someone invites you somewhere, and internally you already know, I don't think I have the energy for this. In moments like that, you can simply say, I think I need a quieter night to reset. And what I like about this response is that it's honest without over explaining, because needing quiet does not make you a bad friend or a distant person. Sometimes your mind and body are simply asking for less pressure and more recovery. And if life has been feeling so overwhelming lately that even basic tasks feel impossible sometimes, I want you to watch this video. Too overwhelmed to do anything? Start here. Because emotional exhaustion doesn't just affect your relationships, it affects your ability to function, focus, and feel present too. Here's our journaling prompt or reflection. Ask yourself, what relationships or situations leave me feeling emotionally drained lately, and what might that be trying to tell me? And if journaling helps you process your thoughts, you can pause here and spend a few minutes reflecting on that question. Sometimes people don't need more productivity advice. Sometimes they just need permission to admit, I don't have the energy right now. And that doesn't make you lazy. It doesn't make you selfish. And it doesn't make you a bad friend, partner, coworker, or human being. It makes you someone who's emotionally overwhelmed and trying to carry too much for too long. If this space helps you feel understood, you can stay here. Until next time, keep growing gently. Take care, friends. You've got this, and I'll see you back in the universe soon.